I still remember the day Tom came home and told me he had a new job. He was beaming with excitement, and I couldn't help but feel happy for him. But as he told me more about the company, I felt a knot form in my stomach. They're a great company, and they have a lot of big clients. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for me, Tom said, grinning from ear to ear. That's great, honey. I'm so happy for you, I said, forcing a smile. I'll be working in the sales department, and I'll be helping them with their marketing strategy. And guess what? They just hired this amazing new marketing director named Jane. She's brilliant, and I can't wait to learn from her, Tom said, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. I felt a twinge of jealousy as he spoke about Jane. I didn't know her, but I couldn't help but feel like she was going to take up more of Tom's time than work would allow. That's great, Tom. I'm sure you'll do great, I said, trying to sound supportive. Tom didn't seem to notice my hesitation, and he continued to talk about his new job and Jane. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something wasn't right, but I didn't want to ruin Tom's excitement about his new job. As Tom went to bed that night, I couldn't help but feel like something was off. I lay awake in bed thinking about Jane and Tom's new job. I had a feeling this was just the beginning of something that would change our lives forever. As the days passed, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was going on between Tom and Jane. He was coming home later and later and later from work, and he was answering calls away from me. I knew he was trying to hide something, but I didn't have any proof. One night, as Tom was getting ready for bed, his phone rang. He answered it and walked out of the room, closing the door behind him. I could hear bits and pieces of his conversation, but I couldn't make out what he was saying. I waited for him to come back, but he didn't. After a few minutes, I got up and went to the door, pressing my ear against it. I could hear Tom's voice, but I couldn't hear the other end of the conversation. Tom, who are you talking to? I asked, knocking on the door. It's just a work call, honey. I'll be done in a minute, he said, his voice muffled. I knew he was lying, but I didn't want to push the issue. I went back to bed feeling more suspicious than ever. The next day, as Tom was getting ready to leave for work, I decided to confront him. Tom, is everything okay? You've been coming home late and answering calls away from me. Are you cheating on me? I asked, my voice trembling. What? No, of course not. I've just been busy at work, that's all, he said, trying to reassure me. But you're always talking about Jane. Is there something going on between you two? I asked, my suspicion growing. No, honey. Jane is just my colleague. We work together, that's all, he said, his voice calm and reassuring. I wanted to believe him, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that something wasn't right. I knew I had to find out what was really going on between Tom and Jane. I couldn't take it anymore. The constant suspicion was eating away at me, and I knew I had to confront Tom and get to the bottom of things. I decided to pay him a surprise visit at work, hoping to catch him in the act. As I walked into the lobby of the building, I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know what I was going to find, but I knew I had to be prepared for the worst. As I made my way to Tom's office, I could hear the sound of laughter coming from inside. My heart sank as I realized that Tom was laughing with Jane. I pushed open the door to his office, and both of them looked up in surprise. Honey, what are you doing here? Tom asked, a hint of panic in his voice. I came to see you, Tom, and to see Jane, apparently, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. What's going on, Rachel? Jane asked, looking at me with a mixture of confusion and concern. I think you know exactly what's going on, Jane. You've been spending a lot of time with my husband lately, and I want to know why. I said, my voice rising with anger. Rachel, please. It's not what you think. Jane and I are just working together, Tom said, his eyes pleading with me to believe him. I don't believe you, Tom. I think there's something going on between you two, and I want to know the truth. I said, feeling tears start to prick at the corners of my eyes. Rachel, I swear there's nothing going on. Jane is just a colleague, Tom said, trying to reassure me. I don't believe you, Tom. And until you can prove to me that you're telling the truth, I don't know if I can believe anything you say, I said, turning to leave the office. As I walked out, I could hear Tom and Jane's whispers, and I knew I had to find a way to get to the bottom of things. After the confrontation with Tom and Jane, I couldn't shake off the feeling that they were hiding something from me. I knew I needed to find proof to confirm my suspicions, and I began to watch Tom's every move. One evening, I decided to check Tom's phone while he was in the shower. As I scrolled through his text messages, my worst fears were confirmed. There were messages from Jane that were more than just work, related. They were intimate, flirtatious, and made it clear that they were having an affair. I felt sick to my stomach as I read through the messages. My heart was shattered, and I didn't know what to do. I wanted to confront Tom right then and there, but I knew I needed to be strategic. I didn't want him to deny everything and make me look like a fool. The next day, I decided to follow Tom to work. As I watched from a distance, I saw him and Jane getting out of his car and walking towards the building, holding hands. It was all the proof I needed. My worst fears were confirmed, and I knew I had to confront Tom again. As he walked into his office, I pushed my way in after him, slamming the door behind me. Tom, I know everything. I have proof that you're having an affair with Jane, I said, my voice shaking with anger and hurt. What? Rachel, that's not true. What are you talking about? Tom said, his face turning pale. Don't lie to me, Tom. I saw you and Jane holding hands this morning, and I read your text messages. You're having an affair, and I won't stand for it, I said, my voice rising with each word. Tom looked defeated, and I could see the guilt in his eyes. He knew he had been caught. Rachel, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. It just happened, Tom said, his voice trailing off. I don't want to hear your excuses, Tom. You betrayed me, and I won't forgive you for this, I said, turning to leave the office. As I walked out, I could feel tears streaming down my face. My world had been shattered, and I didn't know how to pick up the pieces. After discovering Tom's affair with Jane, I was consumed with anger and hurt. I knew I had to get revenge on him for betraying me, but I didn't know where to start. It wasn't until I talked to my best friend, Sarah, that I came up with a plan. Girl, you need to get back at him. And I know just the thing, Sarah said, grinning mischievously. What do you have in mind? I asked, feeling a glimmer of hope. We're going to scratch car, kick him out of the house, and throw all his stuff in the trash. It's the perfect revenge plan, Sarah said, nodding her head in approval. At first, I was hesitant. Vandalizing Tom's car and throwing away his things seemed extreme. But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. Tom had betrayed me, and I wanted him to feel the same pain I had felt. The next day, Sarah and I put our plan into action. We scratched the word cheater into the side of Tom's car. As we stood back, admiring our handiwork, I felt a sense of satisfaction wash over me. Tom had hurt me, but I had gotten my revenge. I knew it was childish, but I didn't care. Tom deserved to feel the same pain I had felt. As I left the scene, I felt free. I no longer felt bound by Tom's betrayal. I could move on and start over without him. But there was still one more step to take. I came home and gathered all of Tom's things around the house. I packed them into boxes and loaded them into the car. Then I drove to Tom's office, where I knew he would be working late. As I approached the building, my heart was pounding in my chest. I pulled out the boxes. As I walked into Tom's office, I could feel the tension in the air. Tom looked up as I entered, his eyes widening in surprise. "Rachel, what are you doing here?" he asked, his voice shaky. "I came to give you your things back," I said, my voice steady. Tom looked at me with confusion as I placed the boxes on his desk. "Your things?" he repeated, his eyes flickering to the boxes. "Yes, your things. I packed them all up for you. I don't want anything that reminds me of you in my house," I said, my voice cold. Tom looked at me with a mix of sadness and regret. "Rachel, I'm so sorry. I know I messed up. Please, can't we work this out?" he pleaded. But I was done with Tom's lies and betrayal. "It's too late, Tom. I'm done with you. I hope you learned your lesson," I said, turning to leave the office. As I walked out, I could feel Tom's eyes on my back. But I didn't care. I had gotten my revenge, and it felt good. I was ready to move on and start a new chapter of my life without Tom by my side. As I drove away from Tom's office, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. I had finally let go of the anger and hurt that had been consuming me since I found out about his affair with Jane. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into my work and my hobbies. I spent more time with my friends and family, and I even started dating again. One evening, I was out for dinner with my best friend, Sarah. We were laughing and chatting when I saw Tom walk into the restaurant with Jane. My heart skipped a beat, but I reminded myself that I was over him. As they walked by our table, Tom's eyes met mine. He looked at me with a mix of sadness and regret. "Rachel, can we talk?" he asked, his voice shaking. I took a deep breath and looked at Sarah, who nodded in support. "Sure, Tom. Let's talk," I said, standing up. We walked to a quiet corner of the restaurant, away from prying eyes. Tom looked at me with a mix of sadness and regret. "Rachel, I just wanted to say that I'm sorry. I know I messed up, and I can't change what I did. But I want you to know that I regret it every day. I miss you, Rachel. I miss us," Tom said, his voice pleading. I looked at Tom for a moment, taking in his words. But then I shook my head. "Tom, it's too late. I've moved on, and I'm happy. You made your choice, and now you have to live with it," I said, my voice firm. Tom nodded, looking down at his feet. "I understand," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. As I walked back to the table with Sarah, I felt a sense of closure. I had finally let go of Tom and the pain he had caused me. I was ready to move on and start a new chapter of my life, one that didn't involve him. As I sat down at the table, Sarah smiled at me. "You did it, girl. You moved on," she said, raising her glass in a toast. I smiled back, feeling a sense of pride. "Yeah, I did," I said, raising my own glass. "Here's to